What's up? What's up? Mike D up in here checking in with you guys. I saw a post the other day on my social media and I thought it was really interesting. I don't want to put the person's name out there because I don't know if they want their name out there on this, but the statement was Death of Autotune was as big or almost as big of a L for Jay as Ether was. Now, I know that's gonna sound ridiculous because Ether was a diss record, and we already know the history behind that, where when Nas dropped Ether, Jay basically lost the battle once Super Ugly dropped. But the what he's saying, I don't want to say totally agree, but I understand where it's coming from, right? Death of Auto Tune came out at a time, this is 2009, where it hadn't been proven yet that Jay was no longer a part of that table that was able to decide what was cool and wasn't cool in hip hop. We always go back to that line on What More Can I Say when he says, I don't wear jerseys, I'm 30 plus, give me a fresh pair of jeans, nigga, button up. And most of the game at that time moved over to button ups. Everybody was rocking throwbacks. And even when we talk about the throwback jerseys and how that came into hip hop, got to give Big Boy from Outkast his credit for being the person that I believe trailblazed that first person I ever saw with it when he had the Astros jersey on in the Black Ice video, Goody Miles Black Ice video. I remember looking at that like, yo, where did he get that from? And I remember Kanye always also talking about the fact that he saw that. He went to Mitchell and S, who had a store in Lenox Mall in Atlanta. He would buy throwback jerseys, go up to Baseline, and the rest is history. But saying all that to say, Jay-Z did bring the throwbacks to hip hop from a mainstream standpoint, and rappers started doing that after, and he was the guy that would tell people what was cool and what wasn't cool. I mean, even with the whole Chris style and all of that stuff, like we know Puff and Big were doing that, but many of the things that Jay was trailblazing, I never heard platinum until Jay, for real, for real. Like he brought platinum to the game, all of those things. And Death of Autotune was a sign of the times where it was a very pivotal moment to see if Jay-Z denouncing Autotune was going to stop people from using Autotune. Now, let's go back to that time period. It wasn't just T-Pain. And I think that if it was just T-Pain, then this would have been something that was aimed at him specifically, and this would have been something that was solely about him. Now, at the time, Wayne was using Auto-Tune. Ron Browse, the guy who made the beat for Ether, was using Auto-Tune. Kanye was using Auto-Tune with 808s and Heartbreaks. And Kanye's actually on the record in the background on, Death of Auto-Tune. Anyway, this was a moment to see if Jay-Z was going to be able to tell the whole game to stop using Auto-Tune, and it would no longer be cool for artists to use Auto-Tune. Well, the opposite seemed to happen, right? Auto-Tune had an influx of popularity. You had people like Future who were able to build a career, a legacy, and become legends off of just straight up Auto-Tune use. Wayne kept using Auto-Tune. I don't want to say took it to the next level, but he basically based his whole structure of making music around Auto-Tune, and what it showed us is there was a new day, and Jay-Z was no longer in a position to tell the game or the industry or just the younger artist or the younger listener that, you know what, we not doing this anymore. We off that, off that's actually on the Blueprint 3. And then when things like that happen, you come across as the angry older artist. I don't want to say the angry old man, but that was like, yo, hey, you talking to them and we don't listen to you anymore. And I think that when people really unravel history and unpack history, we're going to look at that moment and be like, all right, well, the death of Auto-Tune was a proclamation that Jay was making, and it was not the death of Auto-Tune. Now, I know people try to put some similarities between that and Hip Hop is Dead. Hip Hop is Dead is a little bit of a different proclamation because people weren't going to stop making rap music, and hip hop was more so a cultural thing, right? And the workings of the cultural aspect of it were dead because it became so industrialized. So it's more of a it's more of a statement than a proclamation to sit there and say the death of auto-tune. You're telling us after this song, it's done. We're not doing this anymore. And that was further from the truth. I mean, it it actually picked up legs and auto-tune got more popular than ever. Now, if people feel like that's an L, when you're one of the most influential and impactful individuals in the culture, and the culture tells you, yeah, we don't care what you're talking about, we're going to do what we've been doing and do it successfully, and they did that, I think that that does kind of constitute a L. Now, let me know what you guys think. I could be tripping. Let me know if y'all think that I'm taking that too far. But I see what the person on my timeline was saying when they said the death of autotune was a L. Hit like and subscribe. I want to hear you guys' comments on this because I think this is something that could be explored even more. And I'll talk to you soon. All right.